Riley Cooper, I mean, like, that dude deserves a statue. I mean, like,
number one on your speed dial.
Hey, I'll tell you what, like, I mean, I didn't know until a couple days after the fact. I was like, wait a minute, is he the MVP or like we got the all-tournament team?
No doubt about it.
And then Ty Floyd, when I struck out 17, and like stole it from him. But I was like, when has a pitcher like been a part of like 5 of the 6 wins in Omaha? I mean, what a performance!
Coach, it's great to meet you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you for the time. Yes, sir.
Sure, I'm a little late, boys, at the spring game, obviously, as you can see. A couple of booze cruises here to do. Let's do it. Cruise. Grand salami to the boys. Finally back on track. And I got another one coming. Don't you think I don't? And that's how we roll in Tiger Stadium.
Just watching the spring games that were on television, one thing that jumped out about your squad is your quarterback room is very talented compared to a lot of the league and a lot of the country. I wonder, is it easier to recruit that position when you have talent or when you don't have talent? Coach Kelly, we're official.
Finally,
I'm
get a
telling
chance to meet you. Thought I had to get a private audience with the Pope. There's Jordy.
Monday through Friday from 7 to 9. Yeah, you see the notification, we about to go live. We got all your favorite guests, we got them in line. It's the Jordy Culotta Show, come have a good time.
Tearing up, answering the question, I thought, my God, if she gets offered this job, she's going to take it.
It's just a crazy, fun time at LSU right now. Isn't this what everybody loves?
From the boot to the east to the west coast, no matter where we at, we live. Open up the phone lines, come and join the show. Make sure you tell your friends about Jordy Culotta Show. Yeah.
Let's go! Let's go!
All right. Nice start.
Big day.
Nice start.
It's the Jordy Culotta Show, come have a good time.
Coach, it's great to meet you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you for the time. Welcome into a Tuesday edition of the Jordy Culotta Show, live here from Clear Digital on this Tuesday morning, and as always, built by our friends over at RMD Builders. Shout out to Rex and the crew over at RMD Builders. Check them out online at rmd-builders.com, or you can always hit them on Instagram at RMB Builders. Tuesday show, we got a couple of guests lined up for you. We're going to talk to Wilson Alexander at 8:30 this morning, 8:15 this morning. LSU is back in action this weekend versus Army. Big win versus Auburn. Biggest win for LSU in that series for LSU Auburn. As far as Auburn is concerned, that's their biggest loss in the series. What happened Saturday night, that 48-18 loss to LSU. We'll talk about it with Wilson Alexander coming up here at 8:15 this morning. Brooke Kirchoffer will be here at 7:45 as we talk to New Orleans Saints. Tough press conference for the Saints yesterday.
Oof.
I mean, had to come out and just admit that there's breakdowns in communication on the offensive side of the ball. People not on the same page. So,
Does the headset not work?
We'll talk to Brooke coming up here. Well, I mean, what's she been doing?
You got
that's another
in the facility all day.
I just
Coach.
don't understand. How,
big facility guys.
Yeah.
How can you not
DA for sure.
be on the same? I mean, I was reading reports they were calling plays that they didn't even have. They were running things that it's how does this happen?
I mean, that explains Jameson AK's conversation on the sideline.
That was the funniest thing I've seen. I mean, Jameis is so animated. AK would just be.
But AK was
sometimes it'd be like that.
AK was agreeing with him.
Oh, no doubt.
It was something in there that Jameis said that was You might be right.
Jameis knows football.
No doubt.
It's just a matter of how he explains it to you.
Look at the career he made for Jimbo.
Yeah.
You're right.
And you can just, it feels like when you have Alvin Kamara, who was coming out last week, whenever they got the win over, goes to show how bad the Patriots are. Whenever they were talking about the Patriots and their new offense, and it was Alvin Kamara saying, "This is probably what we should do." You have your team coaching the team, not coaches coaching the team. Pete Carmichael, you're not long for this life in coaching.
Yeah,
Dennis Allen, you might not be long for this life.
Days are running out on DA. It feels like. We'll talk to Brooke coming up here at 7:45 this morning. We'll ask her about the Saints. Saints back in action on Thursday night. Short week for the Saints as they're back at home against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence in town, going to be back in the Dome. Looking for a little bit of redemption after Joey and the boys wiped him up a couple of years ago. Is this his first time back? Has Trevor Lawrence been back to the Dome since the championship game?
I don't think so.
I think maybe in a preseason game.
Maybe, but
if I'm not
worst game of his career.
I want to say that he made his first. It was his first preseason game.
Was back in the Dome.
Was back in the Dome.
Maybe so, but I decided that was the worst he's ever played in his life. Probably was against the LSU in 2019.
So. Yeah. All right, so make sure you hit that like button, share button, comment button if you don't mind. We'll be here with you until 9 a.m. this morning. Like we said, we'll talk to Wilson. We'll talk to Brooke coming up here about the Saints and the Tigers. And we do have some Brian Kelly sound from yesterday. Kelly was speaking at the podium for his regular Monday press conference as he was recapping the win. Good news on Emory Jones, I thought. That was my biggest takeaway. We'll let you hear from what Coach Kelly had to say about the latest on Emory Jones, as this is for Stewie. But this is obviously going to be a big storyline to watch. Not only, obviously this week he's not going to play, but during the bye week is going to be the status of Emory Jones and just where he is from a rehab standpoint. Kelly did say that Mekhi Wingo was going to be held out of action on Saturday as well for an injury that he had been dealing with for the most, kind of for the majority of the season. But the biggest news is Emory Jones and the feeling that Kelly and the staff has on what the prognosis could be for their starting right tackle. Here's Kelly yesterday talking about the latest on Emory Jones.
Yeah, we think it's an injury that can be managed quite well, and that we'll have him back. Again, as we look at this, from an injury standpoint, we're always going to be deliberate in making sure these guys are 100% moving forward as we get into the year. But both of them are guys that we feel comfortable they're going to be back at full strength. Look, going into the Missouri game, we'd given up, I think we had tracked like 15 drives, and I think 13 out of 15 we'd given up points. The past 15 drives, I think we've given up 5 out of 15, so something in that effect. So we're just playing more consistent defense, and it's not just one, it's 11 guys knowing their roles, and I've talked about this a couple of times, and I'll say it again. When the structure of the defense is in place and everybody knows their role within the defense, you start to get complementary defense. Guys knowing their roles allows 11 guys to play together. And, we didn't do a great job of that early on. And part of that was, trying to find roles for guys, not knowing clearly what the best lineup was. And, now establishing what that looks like has allowed us to build that kind of consistency on defense.
Kelly yesterday speaking about Emory Jones, also talking about the third down defense and how it's improved over the last 2 games. And look, like we talked about with the defense, I mean, if you can find something that you do well, if you can find something that you can hang your hat on, and really start to find some confidence and find some grow points in it, then really you can start to develop an identity for yourself from a defensive standpoint. So hopefully LSU is finding that way with their third down defense and really kind of preaching that. I will say this, in talking to some coaches around LSU, Brian Kelly has been spending a ton of time with the defense, whether it's in practice, in the meeting room, I mean, when, look, I've not questioned ever the commitment of Brian Kelly, but just in the building, the coaches and the relationship. And one thing that has been hammered home over the last couple of weeks is that Brian Kelly has really dug in to the defense, spending extra time in meeting rooms, spending extra time on the practice field with the DBs, with Matt House, with scheme, philosophy. So, one thing that I kind of recognize Kelly as an offensive guy, when I think of him. But, knowing that, you're 30 years into any trade, you're pretty seasoned on all of the product, right?
Probably picked up a little bit of defense,
sure.
just from being around it so long. But I think what you said was perfect. It's identity. That's what we were trying to find, I guess, either the word for or for LSU to find some calling card on defense as to what they are. Is it, do you get off the field on third downs? Do you try to create turnovers? And it feels like everybody's kind of falling in place, whether it'd be Harold Perkins in that slot role. It feels like that fits his identity well. Now you have Denver Harris coming on third down. That feels like something that they're getting better each week. And I'll say it again, from the addition of Pete Jenkins, that was one of the dominoes that fell where it kind of got you right a little bit. And obviously you'll see against Army no Mekhi Wingo, which is interesting. I didn't even know he was hurt.
I didn't either. That was surprising to hear that his status was
doubtful.
Not only that, but that he had been hurt all season.
Right.
And
a typical Mekhi, though.
Yeah, right. I mean, and continuing to play at the level that he has been at has been very impressive. So, obviously, much deserved week off for both those guys in Wingo and Emory Jones, and being the priority that both of them are to each side of the ball. I mean, they are musts in having back for the trip to Tuscaloosa, and I think that's obviously the objective here. And look, I want to point out again, I'm knocking on wood here, that for the second straight year under Brian Kelly, Mike and Matt Franks and the crew, LSU has stayed relatively healthy, right? And not only that, when you see them injured, there is a sense of confidence. I really felt confident after seeing Brian Kelly speak about the injury yesterday. I mean, you could see that he had almost like a refreshed tone to him, in the sense of, like, they feel like they can get him back. They feel like they can rehab him and he's going to be okay to play because they've seen it before. They've done it before. And, for the second straight year, I mean, it's been pretty impressive to see the way physically LSU is held up. Not only them, kind of being in shape outside of Mason Smith having to work himself back into game shape, but, being a very well-kept team and, for like I said, for the midway point, staying healthy, right? I mean, and then when you can down a player like Jones, who's so important to what you do, the confidence that you're going to get him back pretty quick. So
a lot of depth, a little bit of depth coming through for the Tigers.
I mean, when is the last time LSU's lost an all-conference guard, plugged him in with really a true freshman, a first-year player in a conference game,
rivalry
not
game,
really
blinked,
lost a step? I mean, like Kelly said yesterday on Lance Hurd's performance, a couple of false starts, he had the holding call, but I mean,
you didn't expect a clean sheet,
to be expected, right?
Yeah,
in his first role, in his first time in SEC action, I mean, it's something that LSU is not accustomed to. I mean, really, it's not what LSU has ever seen, especially from a first-year player. Here he is, Kelly, yesterday. This is a little bit of an update on Mekhi Wingo, and also talking about Hurd stepping in for Jones and what that looked like from the coach's standpoint.
Season so far.
Well, first of all, when you have a true freshman that you can plug and play in an SEC game and not have to worry about, fanning to that side, chipping, leaving a tight end, and I believe that's a luxury from my perspective. He went in, played 69 snaps, and he had a couple of false start penalties, had a holding penalty, but those are things that you're going to live with a young guy that's going in there. But his poise, his his ability to work with the five guys, the communication, really pleased with his play. Mekhi Wingo has been nursing kind of a lower body injury all year. This gives us a chance to really get him right going into the bye week and then the rest of the season.
Hurd, very impressive in his first extended action of the season and being thrust in there without any really warning of that it was coming. And look, another impressive part about that is that he's not coming off the field. You know you're not coming off the field. When you look over and Emory Jones he's in street clothes and a boot, you know that you gotta finish the game. And I thought that was great reps. That was a moment for Lance Hurd that he can mile mark and really grow up from and use it as a piece of experience that he now, I'm sure he answered a lot of questions internally for himself on Saturday night. And a guy like, as prideful and as athletic and as accomplished as a guy like Hurd would rarely probably tell the public what his questions are about himself internally. But I imagine that whatever they are, the majority of them were answered on Saturday night. That's a good defensive line he was going up against in Auburn. And then you look third, fourth quarter, they're play calling for him. They're running behind him. Don't think that you call that the line of scrimmage, you call that on the sideline, you call that in the huddle, that everybody's not like, wow, okay. What do you think Will Campbell's thinking when they call 3 consecutive runs over the right side? Like, the youngster's growing up. So, this is a great moment.
It's a great opportunity for Emory Jones. Not Emory Jones, for Lance Hurd to kind of maybe play himself into the lineup a little bit.
Could be.
Because you've been asking, kind of waiting to see him make a move into the lineup, and then it felt like the offensive line got solidified a little bit. Now you have the Emory Jones injury. I don't know if he plays well enough at right tackle, you see maybe a situation where he gets some more run and you slide Emory Jones into guard because it might be easier because he's coming back from an injury. Put him at guard. Let's see what goes on there. But so Lance Hurd has a huge opportunity with the 2 games here to kind of play himself into more of a role than he's had.
Yeah, and really, by all accounts, he's been waiting on it.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
He's been kind of chomping at the bit and waiting for an opportunity to really get in there and establish himself and make himself relevant within this competition. So, great reps for Hurd on Saturday night. Remember, Daily, we're brought to you by Katie's Restaurant. Katie's is located down in New Orleans on Iberville Street. Check them out. Tell Scott, Craig, and the crew that you heard it here on the show. They're open on Sundays now, 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. Same great menu, same great service, cold beer, great pizza, great menu items, 6 new televisions for you to make sure and not miss a play. In fact, if you want to check out the pre-gaming, you can. If you want to check out in-game, they got spots for you to watch the games over there at Katie's, or if you want to come back after the games, you can. Katie's located on Iberville Street, online, katiesinmidcity.com, has a sister restaurant in Francesca's, which is located down by the lake in the Lakeview area. So check them out online, katiesinmidcity.com, katiesinmidcity.com. Here is Kelly. This is 6, Stewie, of Kelly talking about the importance of this weekend. Look, the bye is on deck. Alabama is in the hole, but you got to take care of this weekend if you're LSU before you can get to all of that. And here is Kelly explaining the mindset going into Saturday's game versus the Black Knights.
Yeah, look, it'll be important for our guys to think about what's important right now. And the bye week's not important right now. We don't go to the bye week this week. This week we need to focus on our development, and we need to focus on our process, and we need to focus on Army. If we focus on anything else, we'll get beat. This football team is not a team that can play with the dimmer. We're either on or off. And so we need to be on. And so if we're locked in and doing our thing the right way, we're going to have a good Saturday. If we're not, we're going to struggle. And so we'll talk about that today when we meet. We've got to be locked in on our process and how we prepare this week against the really tough.
I thought that was a great way to talk about the team, really to describe this LSU team. There is no kind of mid-level with this team. They're either on or they're off, and they're always on offense, and they've been off for the majority of the year defensively, but they're starting to kind of catch a stride and started to become a little bit confident in who they are and what they do, and starting to put together at least some consistent week in, week out performances that look the same. Right? I mean, it was not as good against Auburn as it was against, or it was not as good against Missouri as it was against Auburn, but you're improving, you're getting better. That's the point of it. And hopefully this weekend versus Army, you can come out there and continue to establish that on the defensive side of the ball. Speaking of defense, here is Kelly speaking of what has been the difference here lately on why the defense is performing. Why they're performing differently compared to what they were looking like at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and maybe sometimes how I respond and answering it would maybe be better clarified by saying that our players are clearly understanding now how important it is for them to do their singular job. And when they function in that regard and that single-minded focus of, if I just do my job, how this all works together. They're starting to see, when I do my job, the linebacker can get to where he needs to, and then the safety can fit the right way, and then the corner can push crack. So I just think that they're seeing how this all fits together. Not that they didn't want to do their job, but sometimes they want to do somebody else's job too.
So really, I mean, there you kind of see the mindset of the defense, and what has been the message over the last couple of weeks is just, internal buy-in of doing your job individually. Just take care of what you're supposed to take care of, and that way that'll free up the defense to make the plays. So, look, some positive things to build on, and Brian Kelly speaking about that yesterday. Obviously, we will speak to Brooke Kirchoffer coming up here at 7:45 about the New Orleans Saints. But I don't know if you had a chance to see it. I know yesterday it became official as Jacques Doucet was officially named the sports director over at WAFB after 23 years of service of standing next to Steve Schneider, who will go down as one of the all-time greats in media here in the Baton Rouge market. Over 40 years of service to one station at WAFB, affecting so many people, so many stories, bringing so many good stories and good people into our living room, into the community, and into the conversation. Steve Schneider, after 40 years of service, officially announced his retirement a week ago Friday, and WAFB made the news or made the promotion public, with Jacques being promoted to sports director. And look, everybody in the media who has been covering LSU or working alongside Steve and Jacques have really known this has been kind of like the worst kept secret in sports media for the last decade, right? Is that Jacques was committed to staying at WAFB. I think there was a time where a lot of us thought that Jacques was going to end up, in some other market, maybe even out of state, which was not going to make sense because Jacques loved LSU so much. He loves LSU so much. I mean, that's why he got into it, was because of that experience of kind of growing up as a kid and wanting to cover his favorite team. So, I mean, that's kind of what made Jacques, especially as a young reporter. If you go back and look at some of the clips as Jacques as a youngster, I mean, he's so eager and so fired up and so just kind of like happy to be there, right? Which made it easy to watch for LSU fans. But along the years, I mean, as he started to develop his broadcast chops, and, you realize like, whoa, this dude he can anchor the whole thing. He could be your sports director if you needed to. I think he had to come out and say, look, I'm comfortable where I'm at. I want to stay in Baton Rouge. I want to cover local sports, Southern, LSU, Saints, Pelicans, all these teams around here. And I got no problem, kind of playing backup to a great, it was kind of where you just had two of these broadcast titans locally together in their prime. I mean, Jacques' young prime. Steve was probably in his prime when Jacques got there. And for the next, 20 years, 15 years, I mean, they pumped out some of the greatest television locally that we know. I mean, Sportsline Friday night, the local stories, Jacques behind the scenes, bringing player interviews, going and showing up to Monday press conference and asking the questions. I mean, all that kind of goes into that seat. So, first and foremost, shout out to Jacques, and congratulations to him. Congratulations to Steve, the WAFB team, for all of what they're celebrating this week and last week and over the last really kind of couple of weeks here, with all the transition going on between Jacques and Steve, and kind of the handing over the reins of the sports department to Jacques, which, like we said, I think everybody knew that was going to happen, but now that it's officially here, we just want to make sure and salute those guys. And if you have not had the opportunity, I say all of that to get to this, the latest project that has been produced by WAFB and the team over there, Jacques actually kind of behind the scenes here. Darren DeQuano is the superstar on this, is really the executive director. Jacques is somebody, or executive producer. Jacques is somebody, obviously, who has a huge hand in this and being able to bring together all the talent that was in the latest documentary called Cecil versus the Diesel, which is a 38-minute documentary that you can find on YouTube over at WAFB's YouTube page. That's where I got it from yesterday morning, and was just enthralled by the work of what DeQuano and Jacques had put together on the Cecil Collins documentary. We had all seen the trailer. We had all seen and heard Jacques talk about it. I had even traded some text messages with DeQuano on it, and I could kind of sense that he was pretty amped up about it. So I knew it was going to be some really good work. And after having a chance to watch it, I thought it was fantastic. I think it takes you back to a time, if you were not a part of the fan base then, or really kind of cared about LSU football, then it was probably pretty interesting for you to learn and look back on. But from someone who was a young fan at that time, and really, just all into LSU football and what was going on, it was a great look back at a time that was very special and very sad for what happened to Cecil Collins, and to see really the two stories side by side of Kevin Falk and Cecil Collins that Jacques and Darren did in laying it out. I won't tell all of it, but if you have not seen it, it is very much worth your time in sitting down and checking it out. I saw that the YouTube numbers have just, every time I go back to it, they're skyrocketing. So hopefully everybody's getting a chance to see this. If you have not seen it, I would really suggest you checking it out. But if you think about it, Kevin Falk did 13 years in the NFL. He's in the New England Patriots Ring of Honor. He's got 3 Super Bowl rings, and Tom Brady is on record stating that he is his most favorite teammate of all time. I mean, just think about that. So, I mean, one of the great careers, right? Not only what he accomplished in high school at Karen Crow, if you go back and look at his accomplishments there, obviously what he meant to LSU during his 4 years in Baton Rouge, and then goes on to play 13 years in the NFL. He does that side by side with guys like Rondell Mealy, Cecil Collins, Anthony Skinner, Kendall Cleveland, Tommy Banks. I mean, guys that, you say some of these names out loud. I mean, those are some real memorable performances, memorable names in the history of LSU football. And Cecil Collins had a 3-game run in that window during Falk's 4-year run, where it looked as if Falk might be in some trouble. Like, he might be in trouble of being able to hold on to his job, right? I mean, the Mississippi State Auburn performance going into Vanderbilt was one of the all-time greatest lightning bolt, flash in the pan performances that college football LSU has ever seen, ever. Right? And it was during a time where, arguably they had the best back in the history of the program on campus in Falk. And, for what Jacques and Darren did to take you back to his high school coach and Danny Ford at Leesville, to Jerry DiNardo, his college coach here, to even his McNeese head coach down in Lake Charles, to his short time in the NFL, looking and going back to a time that was very dark for Cecil. And I think the best part about it is Cecil. I mean, everybody that's interviewed in it is awesome and gives good insight, from Rohan to Falk to Jerry DiNardo to Danny Ford, like we said, his high school coach. Ryan Clark is in it a ton, who was on campus at that point with all of those guys. So I mean, it's fantastic as far as the insight goes. Of Jack Marucci is great in it in storytelling, and really kind of being a part of the training room at that time. So really kind of saw behind the scenes of all the relationships and how that thing was moving. But you think Kevin Falk spends 13 years in the NFL, well decorated. Cecil Collins does 13 years in the penitentiary. And, I mean, those guys talk about those days and talk about some of those conversations. And Collins takes you back to, his first 6-7 years in prison, how truly dark of a time it was. But now to turn it into a family guy, a success story. And I mean, what Jacques and Darren did was incredible. They have footage from Saturday night in Tiger Stadium. This past Auburn game, this past weekend, I mean, literally 3 days ago, Collins is in the building with his son, who looks like he's going to be a dog. I mean, like, the kid's 9. He's got feet the size of a dinosaur. He's running around in the backyard. I mean, he's cruising in the backyard. But he brings his kid out to the field, and there's a cool moment with Frank Wilson. There's a cool moment with Brian Kelly at the end of it, just from this past weekend. So, look, it is the ultimate what could have been, right? And I mean, it is the ultimate what might have been. But to see the smile that Collins has on his face now, and seemingly the life he lives as an electrician over in the Metroplex area over by Dallas, it doesn't seem like, he is living with as much depression and regret as a lot of us would think, and that's a good thing to see, because he smiles a lot in the doc, which I think is really cool. He's a great storyteller, and he's giving you exactly what was happening. I mean, he admits a lot of his faults during that time. He talks about where he was, kind of what he thought, he was entitled to. It's a fantastic documentary. I mean, it is for what I thought it was going to be, it's better. And I thought it was going to be great. I knew it was going to be great, and it exceeded that. So shout out to Jacques, new sports director over at WAFB. DeQuano's still doing great work as a documentarian and really bringing some stories to life. If you have not seen it, I would advise you check out WAFB's YouTube page. It's easy to find. Cecil versus the Diesel. As you look back, Cecil Collins, one of the all-time greats that this state has ever produced from a football standpoint at Leesville. I believe he ended up with 8,000 yards and 99 touchdowns.
In high school?
As a running back.
Jesus. I know that even in a short time, 4 games at LSU, he had 600 yards.
Yeah.
So you saw what was going to happen. You saw what was coming.
Oh,
and
man.
I think it came full circle a little bit for them. You saw Jacques' kind of call to action on Twitter to get him, like Cecil wanted to come to the game, and it was game week. And you can see kind of the power of social media and what LSU can do when they need to not only get him tickets, but to get him on the field. He got to hang out with Frank for a little bit. You saw them, joking on the sidelines, and it was just a cool kind of full circle moment to see Cecil back in Tiger Stadium, where obviously that's mixed emotions for him, I'd imagine, but he seemed to just be happy.
Yeah, no, it looked like a great spot for him, man. Really and truly, I thought that the documentary was fantastic. It was a great look.
Probably still
back.
has 5-6 carries in him.
I mean, Coach,
Maybe 10.
he
looked good.
Booger said it best. I thought Booger, the description of him, the combination of the size and the speed obviously was the deal. But what made Cecil Collins, and looking back at a lot of those runs, because WAFB's got great footage of it and great interviews and Steve, really it's Steve Schneider. Just doing great work and just being able to, recycle that work and bring it back to life. But one thing is, and Booger said it best, is obviously he's got the size and the speed. His balance, the way that he was able to bounce, he was like a pinball in the middle of action. He hits and runs over a guy from Auburn on like, this guy thinks he's got him squared up, and Collins just puts his head down, and like literally he mows through him. He cuts him down. He chops him down from his hips. This guy he's got nowhere to go but back. His running style, it was, like Schneider says, or it might have, it was maybe Rabelais, Scott Rabelais, who was describing it on the documentary. As soon as you saw it, you were like, this looks different. Like, this is not
normal.
This is not, and you're looking at Kevin Falk, and you're watching Rondell Mealy. You're watching two guys that have, I believe Mealy played 8 years in the league, 7 years in the NFL. Like we said, Falk played 13 years in the NFL. These are pros. You throw this guy out there and you're like, whoa, that looks different. It really, like, Falk is telling the story. He's watching the Auburn game at home at Karen Crow. He's hurt. He's watching it with his now wife, girlfriend at the time, his mom, and his baby girl. And his mom looks at him and she's like, what do you think? And he's like, I think I just lost my starting job. And she's like, he's like, I'm not kidding. And you wake up on Monday morning, and everybody in the country's talking about Cecil Collins. He had put together like back-to-back weeks of just chopping up SEC defenses. So, it's a great documentary. I cannot advise it enough. I cannot suggest it enough. I cannot compliment Jacques and Darren enough on the job they did. It is awesome on the Cecil versus the Diesel over at WAFB. Go check it out. This is 11, Stewie, and I thought, 10. I thought this was a fantastic answer. This might have been Rabelais who asked it of Brian Kelly. If his next win will be his 300th career win. And Kelly kind of gives a little bit of the background of getting into coaching, and surprisingly, he wasn't aware that this was that this was a possibility this weekend.
Yeah, I don't really think about it that much. This is the first time I heard that's the case, to be quite honest with you. Yeah, I think when you love what you do, you're not counting wins. You're thinking about, all right, what do we need to do from a player development standpoint? What do we need to do to get better in this area? You're not really counting. Listen, if I was thinking about wins, I would have got out of this business a long time ago. But having said that, I think going back and looking at, the journey, I had no idea I'd be in it this long. Because my first game, I remember the president at Grand Valley State opening up the press box window, and I could hear him because there was probably 300 people there, and said, who the hell hired this guy? So I didn't think I was going to be in this business very long. And that was the first game. So there you go. That's my perspective.
Kelly yesterday speaking about an accomplishment that he has on the table possibly this weekend with another win. LSU also has a former serviceman that is now a walk-on the squad in Shelby Lee, and how LSU is going to get him involved this weekend. This is 12 and 13, Stewie, back-to-back cuts on Kelly speaking about a pretty special walk-on or a pretty special week for a walk-on here in Shelby Lee.
Is he going to play and just?
Yeah, we're kind of formulating that right now. We're going to do some special things. As you know, the governor is a West Point grad. He'll be part of what's going on. We're going to do some neat things in pregame. We're going to spring a couple of things that we think are representative of what that day should look like playing Army, and we think Shelby.
One more from Kelly. I think he goes a little bit deeper into.
Oh, he's an outstanding walk-on. I mean, he's well-liked by the team. He works his tail off. He brings all the traits that you would expect a guy that is mature and, represents his country. So, we enjoy having him with us.
Saturday night in Tiger Stadium, LSU versus Army, as it should be a very special night for servicemen and women everywhere, as especially here locally. On a special night in Tiger Stadium. Looking forward to getting out there and supporting the Tigers on Saturday night. Make sure and give us a like, share, and follow, comment if you don't mind. And remember, daily, we are brought to you by Barker Brothers Plumbing and Works, Jude Barker and the crew. Easy to find our guys in West Baton Rouge. They're in East Baton Rouge as well. They got a couple of trucks. They're over at the Government Street studio, taking care of some business for us. So they're over in East Baton Rouge today. Remember, you can call the crew at 225-776-2431, and all you got to do is mention the show for 15% off. Barker Brothers Plumbing and Works, Jude Barker and the entire crew over in Plaquemine, taking care of South Louisiana. Doesn't matter if you need a commercial or residential job, Jude and the crew can take care of you today. Barker Brothers Plumbing and Works, 225-776-2431. Mention the show, save 15%. We'll be back. We're going to talk to Brooke Kirchoffer here. We'll dive into it. Saints are bad right now offensively. Not a lot of people on the same page. Some blow-ups on the sidelines on Sunday. Dennis Allen was speaking. The offense, some of the players were speaking. We will hear from Brooke coming up here shortly as we are coming back with our New Orleans Saints report, brought to you by NewOrleans.football and Brooke Kirchoffer. We'll be back right after this on the Jordy Culotta Show, built by R&B. Red Stick Sports, a local staple in Baton Rouge to all sports fans, was founded back in 1981 and has remained a family business for over 40 years. Today, they still have the great selection on the floor, but they're also a leader in custom apparel for businesses, sports teams, and other groups. Take it from us, everybody over here at FM Digital Media. They help us out with all of our apparel. Let them help you out today. Go ask for Cody over at Red Stick Sports. Check him out online at redsticksports.biz.
The Jordy Culotta Show is brought to you by A-Bears Lawn Maintenance. Commercial or residential, A-Bears Lawn Maintenance is ready to work. A-Bears can tackle all your homeowners association requirements. Call Blake at 225-485-8022. A-Bears Lawn Maintenance.
In a wreck, Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys is ready to go to work for you. Come meet your team.
I'm your intake specialist. I coordinate your case and connect you with your attorney and paralegal.
That's us, your legal team.
Here you go.
Thanks. And we'll fight to get you every dollar you deserve.
I'm your settlements and disbursement manager, and I'm here to get you paid on time.
I'm attorney Gordon McKernan. Put our team to work today. Just call us. Get it done.
Hey Tiger fans, when you're traveling through Natchez, Mississippi, make sure to visit Tom and Wright Granning at Go Mart and On The Go Deli, where you can fill up your tank and your belly. Go Mart has clean restrooms, community coffee, an awesome beer cave, and a great selection of anything you may need on your trip. Located at 4 Sergeant Prentice Drive as you're entering Natchez on the left. Also stop by Wardo's Po' Boys at 309 North Broadway on the beautiful Natchez Bluff, where the Po' Boys are so good you'll swear you're in Cajun country.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
Let's be special. Let's be strong. Let's smell greatness from the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,
A real passion of mine is ACL injuries, but not just really in the treatment of ACL injuries, but how do we keep them from happening? So right here at Ochsner, we're doing some research studies on ACL injury prevention. We're working with some of our high schools, and we're testing different functional tests for athletes. And we're trying to identify people that are at risk for ACL tears. We're trying to catch them before those ACLs happen. And then we want to intervene with some injury prevention programs. And that's something that, being part of Ochsner Andrews Institute, and we can continue on that research. We can expand the impact of that research. We can bring that to more athletes in our community.
Don't let concerns about shifts in the market disrupt your long-term financial goals. Edward Jones financial advisor Daniel Newman can help. He'll work with you on an investment strategy for long-term results. Edward Jones can give you the tools and knowledge for a steady approach to hitting your financial targets. Get started today by calling Daniel Newman at 225-261-8262. 225-261-8262. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Belmont Stakes Race Training. I'm sticking to roofing.
Roof, roof. Go roof.
Phil's Oyster Bar, a staple of South Louisiana since 1945, located in South Downs Shopping Center and online at philsoysterbar.com. If you log online, you can learn about the private party schedule, the catering menu, and even order online. Daily lunch specials Monday through Friday. Learn about the history when Gus Piazza took it over in the early 70s, made it an absolute stop-in for everyone who came through Baton Rouge, and now Anthony, his son, carrying on the tradition. Phil's Oyster Bar, South Downs Shopping Center, and online, philsoysterbar.com.
All right, buddy. Make it a good shot. Oh, yeah. Sticking the roofing.
For a hole in your roof, for a whole new roof, go roof. Roof, roof, go roof.
As primary care sports physicians, the things we think about the most with our athletes from a medical standpoint usually involves the head, the climate, and the heart. We have to be very careful about participating in sports when it is safe, but also having the proper equipment to take care of them if we are worried about the athletes. So here in Louisiana, obviously heat can be a big problem. Things that I think about as a primary care sports medicine physician is that it's safe enough for our athletes to participate. And there are certain regulations that we follow here at Ochsner, but throughout the entire state, to make sure it is safe for our athletes to participate. When we think about concussion, we have to really recognize those symptoms from the forefront, and that becomes a cultural issue as well. As for the heart, screening exams are by far the most important thing that we can think about. We go through a series of questions, but also listen to the athlete's heart and ask about family history and other symptoms they may have had in the past. By doing so, we can identify and potentially screen out athletes to make sure that they are safe to participate in the sports that they love to do.
All right, welcome back here. Jordy Culotta Show is always built by RMB Builders. Check out Rhett and the crew at rmb-builders.com, is on Instagram at RMB Builders as well if you want to check out and keep up with what's going on at the inside the projects and what they can do for you. But they can do it all, commercial or residential, whatever you're looking for. Check them out. All right, we're waiting on Brooke here on our Tuesday visit and want to dive into a little bit of the SEC as we wait on Brooke, and we'll talk some NFL if we can get her in here. But after the weekend, I thought that the most surprising game of the weekend for me in the SEC was Tennessee, Texas A&M. I thought that game, I was not surprised by Missouri going into Kentucky and beating them. I was a little surprised with the way that Vanderbilt was able to play with Georgia.
Of course, you have to be. Vanderbilt has not been very good this year.
No, that's the deal. It was more like Vanderbilt like punching over their class than Georgia playing down to class. Like Georgia's got some issues.
Georgia has some issues, especially now that you lose Brock Bowers. You're going to see they've been leaning on him heavily, especially with the new quarterback and with Beck, where it was, okay, let's see if you can find your footing. He has, I guess, his best game against Kentucky, and then you kind of revert back to the mean a little bit, whatever you saw against Vanderbilt, where you get Brock Bowers hurt, you don't look good, and it just feels like Georgia is kind of playing with their food a little bit. Like when the pressure got ramped up against Kentucky, and Kirby knows when to get his team up, and it felt like that they put all of their chips in that basket against Kentucky because they're basically playing a version of themselves that's just not as good.
Yeah, and I mean, look, I think that's playing with fire with this sort of team. I think last year when you have an experienced quarterback and a guy like Stetson Bennett who can really handle those high-pressure, high-level situations in college football that, you can play with a little bit of fire in the regular season. I don't think that this Georgia team has the luxury to play with fire. If you're not competitive, if you're not in these games, when you get into that Ohio State game that they got into last year in that playoff setting, I don't trust that a lot. I just don't. I don't see how that can work. How you can really trust the fact that you're going to be competitive, that you're going to, you'll be competitive, just not as much as you need to be to win on those high level. I like playing and getting tested every week. Or at least, the majority of the regular season. That way, when you get to money time,
You've been there.
You can do it. You know who's going to be there. You know who's going to show up. You don't have to rely just solely on Bowers for these moments. But I thought that Texas A&M and Tennessee was, for me, the game that really appealed to me the most this weekend from just how is this going to work? What's going to happen here? And Tennessee ends up winning the game 20-13. And look, it was a ugly game. D. Williams had to, get a punt return for Tennessee to really seal it for Rocky Top. But more than that, it was Texas A&M, because Texas A&M to me has now run out of excuses. If you've really watched Texas A&M play, they've got a really good roster. They have what it takes to be a high-level SEC team. They feel like a B-, C+ team in the SEC when you watch them play, just from an execution standpoint. But if you just looked at the roster on paper, you would say, man, how's this team like they are? And I'm not pointing and laughing at anybody, because this league doesn't give you the luxury of doing that. You got to make sure and keep your own house in order. But I will say that the more you watch A&M play, the more they feel like LSU 2013, 2014, when you're just in this purgatory of mediocre coaching and
Stars
not enough excitement or enthusiasm anywhere to build on anything. Because you got a roster that should be highly competitive. You have a roster that is very well recruited. You've got a roster that's deep in some key areas, and you just can't put it together. They're staring 7-5 again in the face. 8-4.
Do you, because of all the talent that they have accumulated, do you run Jimbo?
You $77 million on the hook. I know that you got deep pockets in College Station. And,
right.
And really, if I was Texas A&M and I was one of these mega boosters that could cut the check, I would, if you care that much, I would. I would definitely cut bait, because it's not going to get any better. I don't think that you're going to be able to attract the type of talent that you have right now when you're not being able to win with the guys that you have in place. So you're going out there on the trail and you're going to pick up one or two guys here, especially if you're still cutting checks. But to be able to put together a group that is where this group is now, second year on campus, they should be well developed. They should be into, and they are. You know, I mean, the Turners, the Nolans, they just have players everywhere. Max Johnson, the wide receivers, the running backs. I mean, Le'Veon Moss is a stud. I mean, like, that is a high-level SEC back. I mean, he looks like a pro. But you just watch Texas A&M play, and you're like, ugh. It's just painful, man. It feels very much like watching LSU play. And
20 points.
There's just purgatory years of how are they this hard to watch?
It's like they're playing
when they're so good. They've got all these players. Why can they not just bust loose?
And you see them flash almost in spite of themselves. Like, those are the plays that happen, or the ones that are off schedule, where it's like there's athletes being athletes. There's no scheme to get it. I don't know what happened to Jimbo. I don't know what happened to Petrino. They used to be able to run these.
I think it's just Jimbo meddling. I think it's Les Miles. It's LSU, where you're just like, how is this not working?
Get out of here.
And the guy up top is just in the way. I mean,
Les never needed a headset.
He's very unaware when he speaks. I mean, some of his sideline interviews, his post-game press conferences, you're just like, man, wake up, man. Like, what are you looking at? If I'm Texas A&M, I'm power, I got money, I got enough money where, $100 million doesn't really sweat me. Because this thing isn't $77 million. I mean, you got to buy out the coaches, the assistant coaches, you got to go get new coaches. I mean, this is a $120 million chunk you're about to bite off if you want to really get rid of the current staff and go get a totally new one in the one you want, right? I mean, I would go get Dion if I was Texas A&M. He lives in Texas. He knows the area. He wants to be in the SEC. He's bringing players. He's going to win. You give him the brand. You give him the money. You give him everything he needs. I mean, all of that, you can't sweat it. You're back overnight.
Can those players transfer again?
I don't think that they can. I mean, I'm sure Dion is tight with somebody in the NCAA where he can work a waiver. But, I mean, I don't know if you're counting on Travis Hunter to follow him again. I think you just say, hey, Dion, go get the next Travis Hunter. You don't have to sell him on you. You can just, look, you got everything. You got the league. You got the facilities. You got the money. You got the boosters.
He doesn't fit in at A&M, though. I don't see them doing that.
Dion fits in where money is, man.
That's true, but...
Texas A&M has money, and he lives, everybody's like, he's going to go to Florida. And look, I get Florida makes sense. That's where he's originally, but he doesn't live in Florida. He's not been back to Florida. The guy lives in Texas, lives on a ranch. He fishes all day. He's a Texas personality, really.
Max Johnson pulled a Eli Manning against Tennessee.
He got stepped on?
It was 4th and 1.
Yeah.
He goes to make the handoff, and he just falls.
Trips and falls. Same thing happened. His guard stepped on his foot.
Yep, and he gets knocked down by his guard on a play before that.
He got just mush rushed right into him. And it's just, this is basically Scott Woodward's doing.
It is.
What he did with Jimbo.
The magician.
And it was against, it's almost like there was the old bait and switch where you thought, is he going to bring Jimbo to LSU?
Tried.
And I don't know how hard he tried, but it was enough for A&M to re-up Jimbo's contract, and that's kind of why they're in the situation that they're in, because he got an extension, got paid more, and now you're on the hook for just for Jimbo at $77 million. And this is not. It's Kevin Sumlin. You're doing the same thing.
Yeah,
Kevin Sumlin and Jimbo have the same record.
It feels like Kevin Sumlin. It feels like a lot of the repeat of what you watched with Sumlin while he was at A&M. Nobody took him serious, real serious, right? Like I said, they feel like a C+, B- program.
And all this said, you're still nervous about them whenever you have to play them.
You have to be, because they have the talent. So if the talent flips a switch, or the talent just says...
Or a game plan comes together.
Right. That's where it just is scary. You know, I mean, I think you saw it during that
they
stretch.
punked LSU last year.
Who was that? Was it Arkansas and Auburn that they played in 2 weeks and they had the 34 tackles for loss and the 15 sacks in 2 games?
Yeah.
I mean, that was like if you watched them during that 2-week period, you were like, Lord.
They're coming.
I mean, that's going to be a long day for everybody who plays them.
And now they're scoring 13 points.
And now they just do stuff where you're like, what?
Only 1 touchdown against Tennessee.
What are they doing? Like,
it's in the first quarter. And then he just trudged through the mud for the next 2.5 hours and lost.
I don't know, man.
But you say all that too. When you look at LSU's schedule, they're staring right at you in the face. The last game of the year, we're like, shit. If they put a game plan together with LSU's defense, which feels like it's trending in the right direction at least.
Mm-hmm.
But 2 weeks ago, you were looking at that Texas A&M defensive line. You were looking at what they were kind of doing on offense, where it seemed like they were getting better. And you're like, oh God, anybody can score on LSU. You were looking at that game as maybe they take two straight from you, and
Right.
now. Fast forward, and it looks like LSU has a chance to be the class of the West.
Well, it's just the offense, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you look around college football, and LSU's offense is unmatched. Really. I mean, outside of Washington, outside of what the Huskies have with Penix Jr., the 2 wide receivers, they got a running back, they got a good offensive line. I mean, Washington is legitimately good. I mean, like watching them play and beating Oregon on Saturday, that was a really like high quality regular season win, make you better, give you confidence, boost you into the regular, into the postseason type win for Washington. I mean, that was all eyeballs around the country were watching, 2:30 window, ABC. I mean, that was an impressive win. I was very impressed with the offense. I was impressed with Penix. I thought, somebody who was going in there with, the feeling and, the non-objective approach of Jayden Daniels is the best quarterback in the country. I still believe it. I think he's right there with Penix. As far as the college football game is concerned, they may not be the best pro prospects. They may not be the guys that the pro scouts look at and say, we're definitely going to take them one. But as far as how college football is played, these two guys they're dicing it up. They're cutting it up, man. I mean, they can do, and Daniels, to me, his skill set a little bit more varied than Penix's is. Penix throws a beautiful football. I mean, like his accuracy. He's got 2 high-level wide receivers. I mean, he's very in command when you watch it. I mean, it's impressive to watch him play. I would say the same when you watch Jayden Daniels run his offense at LSU. He's very in control of it. He knows what he wants. He knows where the matchups are. He knows and is comfortable when he feels like he's got to run it. So just for what college football is judged on, these two guys, to me, are the top of the class. And LSU's offense in the league, when you're looking in the conference, and we can take this conversation outside of the conference and from a nation, in a country standpoint, and I think it measures up just as much as it does in the league. But when you look in the league, like I get that Alabama's front is going to be a problem. I understand that Georgia is going to have some dogs, some cats that LSU has not looked at yet, not blocked. Their front 7 and all 11 really on defense are going to be as tough of a matchup if they can get to that game as they face all season long. Texas A&M. In the trenches, got pros everywhere, right? But my peace of mind with LSU is that they're going to run into some defenses that may knock this scoring off track, where they're averaging like 43 points a game, 44 points a game, and some defenses may hold them to 35, 30. But when I look at Texas A&M's offense, when I look at Jalen Milroe running Alabama's offense, when I even see Georgia without Brock Bowers on offense, I look at teams that just simply cannot keep up with LSU. Because that's what LSU is pulling up to the building saying, you're running a track meet. Can you keep up?
Averaging 40 points a game this year, averaged 32 points a game last year. So kind of you see the Jayden Daniels effect where
taking shots downfield.
Yeah, he's gotten better, and I guess the only thing that you are scared of, I guess, if you're either an LSU fan or rooting for Jayden Daniels for the Heisman, whatever it may be, it's like you just got to keep him healthy. You saw him get down a little bit and get out of bounds a little bit more, I would say. I mean, he still took a couple of shots against Auburn, but you can see that it's been kind of put in his mind. Slide, get out of bounds. You don't necessarily have to cut it up the sidelines. But my question is, why is Penix such a big favorite over Jayden Daniels, where he's minus 140? Jayden Daniels is plus 850. Jayden has 22 passing touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Penix, 20 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Yards, 2294 for Jayden Daniels, 2300 for Michael Penix. Rushing, Jayden Daniels has 515 with 4 touchdowns. Penix, no touchdowns, 4 yards.
Yeah, that's the part that I don't get because
it just
the
shouldn't be
Heisman
that
is
big of a swing.
It's such a numbers award, really. I mean, that's what it's become. I mean, it's lauded by the numbers.
And
really.
I guess he just had the spotlight moment, right, with the Washington-Oregon game. That's where
I think he's got all the eyeballs. And look, Daniels has his moment coming up 2 weeks from Saturday.
Yep.
You know, I mean, everybody in the country is going to be watching the Alabama game. Everybody's heard that Jayden Daniels, up to this point, has been one of the top, quarterbacks and performers in college football. How does he play on that stage? And if he goes and performs like he did last year against Alabama, he's going to wake up Sunday morning and be the odds-on favorite to win the Heisman. So that game's going to be huge because it's Heisman moments, right? I mean, like that's what they're looking for. They're looking for the moment that Penix, beat Oregon.
Play the tape.
Right. Daniels did what? Up to this point, he's led 5 straight games where they've averaged over 500 yards of offense. Some of them they've gotten 600 yards.
And Burrow was I guess you would go back to, the Texas. You could say that. I think it was too soon to be a Heisman moment, but whenever you run the tape back, that drive against Texas, and then you have the Alabama game where he gets loose, and those kind of moments matter. Like it doesn't matter if you. It's almost like you only need 1 or 2 of them, those splash moments to where it shows up on the tape and they can run it while you get the award. It's like, oh, I remember that.
Well, and especially if it comes in the big moment, if it comes in the big game, if Daniels does
and he's built for that,
the 2-point conversion score
this
year,
or
the touchdown run on the first play of overtime, or he has a big play, in Alabama to win, that you can point back to and say that was a key to winning the game. I mean, those are the moments that will make those. You can't keep him out of the discussion by his numbers. I mean, all of these people that are trying to keep him out of the top 3 are you're looking for clicks. I mean, because that's just that's crazy. It's nuts. I mean, his numbers say that he's the best. That's the part of it that I can't believe he's not getting the respect on for his. Many people is fall back on numbers, and really, like we said, I believe the Heisman it's a numbers award. I mean. There's so many people that look at this, vote on this, have input on this. It's simple just to throw the guy with the highest numbers and best percentages up on the poll and just cast your vote. And I believe that the moment, the stage is really going to dictate. Who and how this thing works out.
And he looked so good against Auburn, man. That was the first time I feel like you really saw him go through his progressions. That's what somebody was saying in the chat that they've been talking about on ESPN, that he was going to consistently get to his 3rd and 4th read, and you could see that. Auburn wasn't having a great deal of success getting pressure on him, so he's kind of able to sit back in the pocket and go from 1 to 2 to 3, and that's how you got a Con Lacey game like you did, where he was going to his 3rd read, essentially, and it looked like that was the first time Jayden Daniels felt comfortable in the pocket. Me and Stewie were talking about when we were watching, look at him go through. He knows exactly what he's doing in this offense now.
Yeah.
He's never been this confident.
In command.
I mean,
that's what I think when you watch Penix, when you watch Daniels, I think that's what you see. I don't see that with Caleb Williams. I see Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams, to me, looks like a flag football quarterback. A great one. A guy that can just take the snap, run sideline to sideline, spin around, make you miss, keep the play alive, and then just throw it over your head, right? Things that you're like, wow, look at that. That guy's incredible. But also a guy that if you get into a well-devised plan, you get into a scheme that say, take that away from him. Take those strengths away from him, which the NFL is going to do every single week. It doesn't play. I mean, can you confide that talent into a spot that, like you can make him a legitimate pocket quarterback that, is a dual threat, that when things break down and people are covered, then he can turn into a runner. Well, then you've got this just incredible prospect to work with. But that stuff's not going to work. I mean, that stuff didn't work against Notre Dame. It's definitely not going to work against Detroit. Right? I mean, like, it's just that's when I watch Caleb Williams play, he's got the splash, he's got the wow, he's got all that stuff. It just, the translation to me doesn't make as much sense as it may for everybody. I mean, I think if you're just drafting the best, the biggest, strongest, and most talented, well then yeah, I mean, I would take that guy. But I mean, like, I watched Drake May and Shedeur Sanders make throws from a pocket off a progression that you're like, man, that's some NFL stuff right there. Jayden Daniels last Saturday against Auburn, I mean, he's 1, 2, 3, back to 1, fire. I mean, like, that's the stuff that NFL guys are looking at like, whoa, look at the evolution of that guy. Look how much he's gotten better. Look how, I mean, I saw Caleb Williams fumble the snap in his first Red River shootout, fumble the snap, run around, pick the ball up. I mean, like, take this laser off of his right arm and just throw it through his wide receiver in the goal, like, to win the game. Like, I've been knowing he could do that stuff for 2 years now. Really? I mean, the first time I ever saw him in college football, you were like, holy cow.
He came in and ran, 70 yards on the first play of the game that he got in, and it was Spencer Rattler, you're hitting the portal. And I think a lot of it might be a little bit of you're just kind of used to seeing it now with Caleb Williams, to where you're used to it, as opposed to somebody splashing onto the scene. It's like, it's new. This is just, he's been so good and for so long in college that it doesn't surprise you anymore. So you just kind of, like I said, you're just used to seeing him do make these spectacular plays. It becomes mundane almost. And I believe if Caleb Williams gets in, like, whenever he goes probably 1 in the NFL draft, they'll probably coach some of that out of him. In college, he can do whatever he wants, because what's Lincoln going to tell you? Like, they need to score 60 with Alex Grinch's defense. Like, go do it.
No. I hear, and look, that's what Lincoln Riley is being paid to do. I'm not sitting here. I'm not criticizing Riley or his guys. They need to win games at USC. Just like earlier this season when Brian Kelly was saying, well, you're worried about Harold Perkins' next level position. Not really. I mean, like, I understand.
What should be Florida State?
You're looking out for the player, but not really. You know what I mean? Like, if he does one thing that helps LSU win games better than it's going to help the Carolina Panthers win games, I'm all interested in the LSU stuff. And quite frankly, everybody over there needs to be too, because that's what the check comes from. I mean, I know that you have a responsibility to develop players. I think development comes with finding roles too. I mean, there's certain things that you can put a player in place and say, hey, look, this is the one thing that you do well now. We're going to really develop that. We're really going to key in on that. And you're going to help us win games along the way. So I get what Caleb Williams is, but I mean, you look at some of these quarterbacks that are making some of these throws, man. I mean, that ball Drake May hit to Tez Walker last Saturday night, man. I mean, that is NFL ready. Shedeur Sanders makes some NFL today passes that are ready to go. Hell, Jayden Daniels makes some NFL ready passes on his accuracy, especially down the field. But I mean, the quarterback play in college football this year is so extraordinarily good. I mean, like, really, give me a comparison when we can talk about the depth, the numbers, the guys that are playing it at such a high level that it really changes the whole game. I mean, it changes the way you think. It changes the way I watch it. I've been so really, and I say this, I mean, almost embarrassingly, because this is our job here. But I mean, I've been dialed into LSU every season watching them play, but I haven't watched this much college football intently Like watched every play. I'll catch all the highlights. I'll see what teams do. I'll keep up with records. I'll know the guys on the teams, but I really just kind of see them through the highlights. I mean, I have watched more start to finish games, and really what has kept me involved in the game is the quarterback play.
Well, it's almost like watching NFL football, where you go from, especially because of the parity, and it probably has a lot to do with every team it feels like has a good quarterback. Notre Dame, Sam Hartman, Drake May at North Carolina, who's at Florida State, like
Jordan Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean everybody that is good or in.
It's not Jordan Rodgers.
No, it's Travis.
Jordan Travis.
Jordan Rodgers is
the SEC network.
Yeah, Wilson. But like you can look around the country, and it's the parity of college football makes me want to watch every game. Like I was tuned into Colorado on Friday.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you watch that, and you see him play.
And I thought Stanford's quarterback played well in the second half.
Yeah, and then you have Arizona's quarterback. I mean, it's just there's so many good teams. It feels like that. It feels like an NFL schedule. You can go through the whole litany.
All right, Wilson Alexander coming up here in mere seconds, but let me remind you about our friends over at Go Roof, GEAUX roof.com, a beautiful roof every single time. 225-927-8300 is the phone number. Roof's up with our friends. You get a 2-year free workmanship guarantee with all new roof installations. That is commercial or residential. Doesn't matter. They can help you out with roofing repairs as well. Hop online, GEAUXroof.com, GEAUXroof.com is where you can find them online, or call up the crew today at 225-927-8300. The boys are great, man. If you call them today, you'll see them today. They'll be up on the roof. If you got a problem, they can diagnose that. They will work directly with the insurance company if you need that to take the headaches away from you. Online, GEAUXroof.com. Go Roof, a beautiful roof every single time. 225-927-8300 is the phone number. Get in touch with Go Roof today. All right, Wilson Alexander is with us every Tuesday. Remember, he is an award winner over there. Pro Football Writers Association named him the Edward Aschoff Rising Star Award in the offseason. I believe he just received actually the hardware from that award a couple of days ago, or a little maybe over a week ago. But here talking LSU football is the insider from NOLA.com and the Advocate every Tuesday with us. Hair on point as usual. Yes. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, guys.
Wilson, real quick, I know that you're dialed into LSU, and that's your job. You follow them, you cover them, but you have a vote on a national scale and really are dialed into college football. Do you see the quarterback play this year, and what do you make of it, and how much does it stand out in relation to other years?
It's kind of the story of the season in my mind. Like a few years ago, you thought about how good defenses were playing. I think that was maybe 2021. You had like a lot of really good defenses in Michigan and Georgia and some others. But like this year, it's like all about the quarterback play, which is maybe not necessarily super different from what you might have some years. But yeah, it seems like it's at just an incredibly high level. When you look at Caleb Williams, Shedeur Sanders, fantastic watching these quarterbacks go at it. I mean, it's going to be interesting as we get into toward the draft, who's going to be in the first round, who's going to be the first senior taken, which Jayden's going to have a good chance to be at this point, the first senior off the board. And also, though, it's fascinating when you look at the Heisman race unfolding, and also one of the things that Jayden's kind of having to push against, because he's got these incredible numbers, but so do a bunch of these other guys. And so, he's been fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but when we think about the Heisman, maybe in a month and a half, there's probably going to be 3 or 4 guys who have some really, really good numbers. And I expect Jayden to be up there with them, but it's just that the quarterback play right now has been at a really high level, and it's hard to maybe stand out from the pack, even though I would still say that Jayden and Michael Penix, in my mind anyway, have started to do that.
I agree. Wilson, do you think he's a top 20 pick right now? Jayden Daniels.
Yeah, I don't know about top 20 pick necessarily, because it kind of depends on which quarterbacks are coming out this year, how many teams need quarterbacks. He's playing at a really high level. He's putting himself in consideration to maybe be a first rounder if there's a team out there that depending on the number of teams that need a quarterback. If there's like 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round, maybe he's the 5th one. And somebody takes a flyer, kind of not a flyer, but like, if somebody kind of really likes his game and everything. But we'll kind of see, over the course of the rest of the season. He's putting himself in consideration, though, to certainly be in the mix But we kind of just got so long to go between now and the draft that it's hard to say if he's worked his way up into top 20 kind of range.
Wilson, what did you make of the defensive performance for LSU this past weekend? What is it that has got them playing with a little bit more confidence here for a second straight week?
To me, it was just the improved tackling that is really gone over 2 weeks now because, Auburn, that's not a good offense. And so it's hard to maybe put too much stock into a performance against them. But you also have the second half against Missouri. So sort of 6 quarters of pretty good football here. LSU's only allowed 32 points over the last 6 quarters, which maybe isn't stellar defensive play, but it's a heck of a lot better than what they had been putting out there. And the big part of that is just because of the tackling. LSU missed 17 or 18 tackles according to Pro Football Focus against Ole Miss. Of course, the team charted even more than that, 34. But over the last 2 weeks, this is, again, PFF numbers just to kind of keep things consistent. 5 tackles over the last 2 games that they missed. 3 against Missouri and 2 against Auburn. And, you're not playing maybe great athletes on the outside against Auburn, but you were against Missouri. Luther Burden and some of those other players. That Missouri team 6-1 now. They went on the road to beat Kentucky. And so to have a second half against them like you did, I think really is encouraging. And then to continue that against Auburn is as well. Bigger tests certainly coming up in November, but they've made some strides in some of those key areas with tackling and as a result kind of getting off the field on third down. In the second half against Missouri and then against Auburn, those 2 teams were 5 of 19 on third down. And that's a major improvement from where they were against Arkansas and Ole Miss and even against Florida State.
Do you feel the Pete Jenkins effect here in 2 weeks? I mean, do you see anything that stands out that you say, man, that must be Pete?
We talked to Jacoby and Guillory last week, and he said that one of the first things that Pete did was come in and say, okay, you're going to crowd the line of scrimmage. That is certainly a Pete Jenkins, kind of thing. Came right in and said, okay, y'all are playing too far off the ball. And Jacobian said that had been implemented to help them kind of use their eyes and react. But they'd just gotten way too far off the ball. And Jacobian said that at times it has worked, but again, that they had just gotten too far away from the line of scrimmage. So they're crowding the ball a lot better. And that is certainly something that, Pete came in and changed right away. The technique is better too. And also just fundamentally going down to the 4-down front, they're able to do some different things in terms of kind of their gap alignment just seems a little bit better. There's, I don't know, it's like they're attacking the ball better, they're getting it field better, but they're also not, the holes in the line just aren't as big as they have because their gaps are a little bit more sound. And so I think that a lot of that can be attributed to Pete Jenkins and what he's done. Their technique is certainly a little bit improved. But they got to continue to get better here over the next few weeks before going into Alabama.
Big football term, gap integrity.
Buzzword.
That is what LSU has been feeding off of here, and seeing some of the advantages. The offense here, Wilson. Okay, 5 straight games over 500 yards. They go over 600 actually on Saturday, and they look to uncork a third wide receiver as Kyron Lacey busts on the scene for 4 catches and 5 targets, over 100 in a score. What is it? I mean, they feel right now that they're indefensible. There's nothing that you can do that would stop them.
Certainly. I mean, this offense is absolutely rolling. And you made the point last week about a third receiver, and I thought, oh, well, they've got Malik and Brian. But, yeah, I mean, Kyron, they kind of – I don't know if Auburn necessarily, took Brian completely out of the game, but, of course, he only had, 2 catches for 7 yards. Malik still had a good game. But clearly the guy who was open, was there over the middle in particular, was Kyron Lacey. And Jayden did a great job of finding him in those situations. And then Kyron, redeemed himself in the second half after that drop. It was good to see him be able to kind of, have a good night. And especially in his own way, be able to, after having some drops here earlier in the season, just have a good game, and kind of maybe get his confidence going and get him rolling a little bit. He's had some moments here and there where he's made some good catches, but, to go over 100 yards, that was the first time in his career that he'd done that. He never did it when he was with the Raging Cajuns, and he hadn't done it yet at LSU. And so that was a really, just a good night for Kyron. And now you start to, have a third receiver threat who you really can look out there and trust. And that just continues to expand an offense that is absolutely rolling right now. You got 3 straight games with 48-plus points, and that is hard to do against anybody, and it's all been against SEC competition. So it's been impressive.
What do you make of Emory Jones? And it sounded pretty refreshing. It sounded like Brian Kelly was relieved on where they were and possibly getting him back for the road trip to Alabama.
Yeah, absolutely. We've never heard him. Brian Kelly is usually pretty frank about injuries sometimes, and he hasn't used the words high ankle sprain when describing Emory Jones at any point, just ankle sprain, which is great to hear that it's not dealing with something like that, because the high ankle takes so much longer than just a regular ankle sprain. So, similar to Mekhi Wingo, who's just really getting kind of rest this week, even though because he's been dealing with stuff kind of all year. Emory, they're probably just going to keep him out, rest him over the bye week, and then you've got a few weeks there to rest up for Alabama. So at this point, no indications from anywhere that he is going to be missing that's in danger or anything like that. It seems like they expect to get him back at full strength, kind of coming out of the bye week, and so that's a great thing. We'll obviously keep tabs on it over the next few weeks because Brian Kelly didn't put an exact timeline on it. But the way in which he was talking about it was very positive.
What did you make of Lance Hurd stepping in there? I mean, Brian Kelly called him a plug and play. That is what a luxury to have as a true freshman stepping in for an all-conference tackle.
Yeah, he played well. I mean, certainly a few moments where, there was the holding call and a false start and little things like that weren't, he's got to kind of clean up. But his technique seemed to be pretty good. I'm not an offensive line guru necessarily, but from what I could tell, he was able to play really well and step in there, especially when you look at like the last 2 weeks now. I mean, LSU had Charles Turner go down against Missouri. And of course, Marlon Martinez's snaps weren't great. So you had to kind of get that fixed with bringing in DJ Chester for the rest of the game. But then this week, Emory Jones goes down, you got to bring in Lance Hurd. And both times, even though, you could say that the offense got hit a little bit of a snag because of those snaps there against Missouri, but like in general, both times, the offense just kept rolling in a lot of ways, regardless of having to bring in some different guys into the offensive line. So that's really, really great. It speaks to the depth that Brad Davis has started to build up there. Lance Hurd is going to be a great player for a long time. And so, he's still just a freshman, but he's getting, in there. And it's going to be big for him this week to kind of go into this week and likely know that he's starting, the whole game. And so he's been good already this season. But Miles Frazier kind of taken over that right guard spot and prevented them from really needing to do that rotation. But when you needed him, then Lance stepped up and played a good game, and your offense just kept rolling.
I'm not disrespecting this weekend's opponent at all. I think you got to be ready to play and can't overlook them. Do you expect to see new faces? Do you expect to see some guys that we haven't necessarily seen yet?
Yeah, I certainly would. I think LSU will, get up in this game and be able to do some of that. And, then maybe we'll see a little bit more of like a Deshaun Womack, maybe some Javian Toviano, get a look at Garrett Nussmeier again and see, okay, let's check in on him and how he's kind of coming along. And, other players kind of like that, maybe a lot of Caleb Jackson in the second half. And some of these freshmen and the underclassmen who we haven't gotten as much of. Whit Weeks, Omar Spates came in and played a lot last week, and so maybe this is another kind of game where you can get a good bit of Whit Weeks in there. And I would kind of expect to be able to see some of those things, maybe LaTerrence Welch, so just some of those other players on the two deep and freshmen who are maybe in line for a red shirt. If LSU if things go the way that they should and could in this game, and LSU gets up big, which would certainly be the plan. Maybe to get up big at halftime if you can, and pull out some of these guys, or even by the third quarter and pull out your starters so you don't risk any injuries going into the bye week ahead of Alabama. Then, you can start to see some of those younger guys, and that's one of the things to kind of look for in a game in which LSU is favored by 30 points.
Got to see Quincy Wiggins this weekend. That's the only person I
great point.
See. That's the only person I want to see.
Yeah.
I want to see 93.
1 versus 11.
We haven't seen him at all this year.
Unreal. Yeah. I mean, really, right? I mean, for the way that they've struggled in the areas, I mean, I know that, internally those guys have forgotten more football than I'll know, but, I mean, he looks the part. I mean, he definitely looks like he could help. Special teams seems to be steadily, slowly improved. Ramos has been a story. I think that Ramos does not get enough credit, I think, just because of the overall unit. But it looks like they're starting to really find some confidence. I love the play Clayton made. Obviously, Caleb Jackson back there is a threat. But even the coverage teams, it looks like Wilson is improving week in, week out.
Yeah, I mean, special teams has not really been an issue, this year. Certainly not like it was last year. And Brian Kelly kept saying over the offseason that he thought really the only problem on special teams was the dropped returns, and that otherwise, they didn't have a lot of issues. But it's not just that. They haven't, other than maybe the Mississippi State game where, Mississippi State had a really good returner. LSU's coverage units have been quite good, and Jay Bramblett has been an asset, especially that punt to pin Missouri inside the 5-yard line. He's good at, in particular, to kind of directional punting and pinning guys against a sideline. Caleb Jackson has brought you a little bit of juice in the kick return game. Greg Clayton continues to be more of a safe option. He let that ball kind of get over his head, which he probably shouldn't have done, but then picked it up and gained some yards, and then, penalty brought it back. So still not much that you're getting out of the punt return game, but it's at least been reliable. And really all you need at this point is to have him catch the ball and give the ball back over to the offense anyway. So as much as maybe in the future it'd be nice to kind of, get something out of Aaron Anderson as a punt returner and make that more of an asset in this game for LSU, with this offense, just get them the ball safely. And so that's been the key. And yeah, I think Damian Arms has been really steady too. He's missed maybe a couple of kicks. There was one in the Missouri game that went just directly over the upright, and LSU couldn't really believe that it wasn't, called good, but I guess by the letter of the law, it wasn't. He's been steady. LSU, the few times that it has kind of stalled out around the red zone, Ramos has gotten them points. He's even, last year's career long was 47. He's eclipsed that twice. I think he's got a 48-yarder and a 49-yarder this year. And so, he's been a steady option for them. Something that looked like it might be a concern, remember back in the spring when him and Nathan Diver didn't make really a lot of their kicks in the spring game. He's given them some, reliability there at kicker, which you got to have in a game like this.
Wilson, was Tiger Stadium every bit of the part last Saturday night? It felt like it in the lead-up, in the pregame. It was a beautiful day in Baton Rouge. I know recruits were in town, 2 commitments from it on Sunday. What was your experience like of Death Valley on Saturday and just the first home game after 2 weeks off?
Yeah, I mean, the first, I guess, maybe quarter and a half, it felt kind of like peak Tiger Stadium. It was full, it was rocking, the fans were causing false start penalties. The weather was just perfect on Saturday. The atmosphere was great with, showing Bryce Underwood and some of those other recruits on the screen at times. The crowd thinned out in the second half, and it wasn't quite the same kind of atmosphere necessarily once LSU got up big. But this was sort of that, first time of the season where it really felt like football weather, and everything kind of reflected that with the way the crowd was into the game, the atmosphere that they had, that they created. It was just sort of a perfect kind of scene there, especially in the first half. And hope everyone got to enjoy it because, this weekend should be good as well, but it's not an SEC kind of environment. I guess, and then the next one, you have to wait a few weeks until Florida in November. So it was one of those fall days that you just really enjoy. Great weather, good football. What more can you ask for, really?
Hell yeah. Last one, I'll get you out of here. Very impressed with the running backs last week. I think obviously Logan Diggs is the guy. He's the guy that's going to be there when it counts and when they need the win. But what they did and how they handled that room last weekend, I thought was very commendable, and it shows the trust. What do you make of how they're using that room?
Really well. I mean, Logan Diggs is certainly, your bell cow, your leader, but this was the first time since really the Mississippi State game that we'd seen some other guys get involved in a significant way. John Emery, of course, had a good game, that big catch, and then his first touchdown of the season. Caleb Jackson, had a couple of receptions. Josh Williams even got in there a little bit. And, they had this room, and for the last couple of weeks, so they really hadn't used anybody outside of Logan. And now you start, it was kind of good to see them, be able to spell him a little bit and get some of these other guys involved. And, they do some good things. I think Logan is certainly the most complete back of the group. He's been fantastic to this point, but you do have something in some of your other running backs. And so they were able to sprinkle them in a good way and kind of just have a little bit of a rotation. So, Logan is fresh there in the fourth quarter. But it's been interesting that, he's been the one who's gotten kind of like 18 to 20 carries a game, which is a lot when you considered how many running backs LSU had. He's just completely kind of taken over. But LSU did a good job in this game in particular of rotating and getting some other guys some work. I'd expect that to probably continue here against Army, where, again, if you can get up big, you can get in some guys like Caleb and Josh Williams would probably, get some more carries, and John Emery too, and maybe even Noah Kane or someone who hasn't really seen the field here in a little bit. Logan's certainly taken over that room, but it's great when they can kind of start to mix in some of these guys to keep them fresh throughout the course of the season. you're getting a lot out of balance because of what they've been able to do in the running back room.
Football Writers Association of America named him the Rising Star. The Edward Ashoff winner is with us every Tuesday. We always appreciate his insight. NOLA.com and The Advocate. You can find him on social media at WHAlexander_. Great to see you, bro. We'll talk to you next week.
You're too kind, Jordy. Have a good one.
All right, man. There he is. Wilson Alexander. Every Tuesday. Great information. A must read, a must follow if you're following LSU football. He's got great information.
Such a humble man.
I heard his text messages going off. I wonder if that was breaking news that we need to
call him back,
get back, and maybe text in.
What do you think it would be?
I don't know, man.
Angel Reese signs an NIL deal with Reebok?
I think he's only football.
Right.
Speaking of Reebok, did you see who they named CEO?
Shaq.
And Allen Iverson.
And did you see your first?
Is a great play.
Did you see their first deal?
Bring back the pumps.
Angel Reese just signed a deal with Reebok.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. So Wilson Alexander not the only one breaking news over here. Where's my award?
Easy over there.
Just need one.
Easy over there. All right, we appreciate you liking, following, comment, watching today's show. Remember, daily, we're brought to you by Hughes Mechanical AC. Our friends over there, Travis Hughes and the crew, HughesMechanical.net. Shout out to our guy, Justin Vincent. Cool story here.
Huge news.
Justin Vincent last week. I met Travis Hughes for the first time. He was at our Football Friday event over at the Cook. Compliments and partnered up with the LSU Alumni Association. Travis Hughes is there. He runs Hughes Mechanical Contractors. And afterwards, he and I kind of hit it off at the event. We're kind of going back and forth. He texts me. He's like, you know anybody who played for the Pittsburgh Steelers? And I'm like, I think JV? Yeah, Justin Vincent did. Yeah, hell yeah. I was like, Justin Vincent got a ring with Pittsburgh. And he was like, my daughter is obsessed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I was like, no way. I was like, today's her birthday. And I'm like, all right, well, let's swing. Let's take a cut.
Through.
Let's see. So I'm like, I text JV. I'm like, dude, you get the diehard Steelers fan. Today's her birthday. Client's daughter. It would go a million miles. I send JV. So I asked Travis, I said, send it over, man. Let's see what happens. I send it over. Like 10 minutes later, the daughter calls Travis and is freaking out because JV had called her, wished her happy birthday, did it from a Steelers perspective, and just wanted to make sure and shout that out. My guy JV doing great work. Travis and the crew really appreciated that. Hughes Mechanical Contractors,
awesome.
That's what you get, man. Local, down home, love LSU, love local community, work with partners, work with people that you all know, all in the network in here in South Louisiana. Get in touch with them over at Hughes Mechanical Contractors, 225-658-2147, 225-658-2147, HughesMechanical.net online, and you can find them today for residential or commercial. They work the entire South Louisiana corridor from Lafayette to Baton Rouge to New Orleans to the North Shore. You can find them. HughesMechanical.net. Travis Hughes and the crew. We appreciate them every day. They're a trusted Daikin dealer over there too. So remember, they got that great warranty when you work with Hughes Mechanical. HughesMechanical.net. We'll be back. Close it out here on the Jordy Culotta Show, built by R&B.
Read and React is giving LSU some love.
If you're in the market for a mortgage lender, you need to start with Doug Bickley and his team. Bickley has built a crew with over 50 years of combined lending experience. They've been in business for over 20 years, and they love helping their clients achieve the American dream of home ownership. They're also key with working in real estate agents and helping their clients getting same-day pre-approval. They average about one buyer a day getting them in a home. If you want to get in touch with Doug and his crew, it's easy. Call them 225-214-5154. 225-214-5154. Go see the Bickley team today. They're located on the corner of Coursey Boulevard and Sherwood Forest right here in Baton Rouge.
What's up?
What's happening?
Chilling with a couple of cool guys. You?
Chilling and watching some tube. Hold on.
Did you do it?
Hold on. Did you do it?
Rusa.
Hold on.
Rusa?
Rusa!
Rusa!
Hold on. Hold on. Hold on.
Beautiful roof every single time.
True. True.
At Auctioner, we know healing is a team sport. That's why we've partnered with world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. James Andrews to create the Auctioner Andrews Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. Whether you're a professional athlete or a weekend warrior, our team of specialists are dedicated to getting you back in the game. So whatever your reasons are for reaching your personal best, we've only got one. You. Auctioner Andrews Institute. Long live you.
You can't put the cart before the horse. That'd be like, will you marry me?
Do I know you?
Never sign a contract with a roofer before he gets on your roof. Call Go Roof instead. We offer a free, no-obligation inspection. A beautiful roof every single time. Bobby, goes in the front.
Roof, roof, Go Roof. Offensive player of the game from LSU, Joe Burrow.
Football is life. Football is Joe Burrow.
Click Here Digital, the home of the Jordy Culotta Show. Online at clickheredigital.com. If you're looking to set Google ads, set social media campaigns, learn about SEO, display video, or even creative, Click Here Digital has the answer for you. Online at clickheredigital.com or email me directly, Jordy at clickheredigital.com.
Well, the Auctioner Andrews Sports Medicine Institute collaborative effort was an idea from Dr. Andrews and myself to bring together two great names, the Andrews name and the Auctioner name, to elevate the quality of care for athletes in the state of Louisiana, where he's from.
I always thought I would come back to Louisiana and practice orthopedics with my subspecialty being sports medicine. This was an opportunity through Auctioners to come back and work the entire state to help develop and take sports medicine to a new level.
As an orthopedic surgeon, what this means in the future in terms of, access for our community to the type of care that Dr. Andrews pioneered, words can't describe how valuable that is.
Auctioner has a great opportunity here to really grow, and Dr. Burnham, of course, is the mainstay of making that happen. If you want to have first-class sports medicine care, check in with Dr. Burnham and his group, and you'll be more than impressed and pleased.
Malik Neighbors, a wide receiver.
Favorite pregame meal?
Popeyes.
What would winning a national championship mean to you?
It would mean a lot to me because, we seen a lot of the greats come through here, won their national championship, got, remembered for life.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Probably fly. That or telekinesis.
What's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Do it wrong, do it long. Do it right, do it light.
Kyra Lacey, wide receiver, number 2. Do you have any nicknames?
K2.
What's the best piece of advice that you've ever been given?
Stay humble.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Fly. I be flying in my dreams.
What's been the highlight of your partnership with us?
The bike giveaway was one of the best things. I was pretty excited about that one. Texas A&M, I just got a point to prove because last year I dropped 2 balls I should have caught. I'm coming for them for real.
That's it. Thank you, man.
My name is Harold Perkins, and I play linebacker.
What's your favorite pre-game meal or snack?
Pasta with a little steak, something that's not too heavy.
Any superstitions or pre-game rituals?
I pray a lot. Just be me and God before the game. Perky worky. I like when they call me the percolator. I like that.
If anyone gets in a wreck, who should they call?
Gordon.
Thanks. Where were you born at, Greg?
Hattiesburg, Mississippi. But I claim 504 food because I was raised there my whole life. Favorite type of food is spaghetti. But you need to try spaghetti with some corn on the side. Funniest person, I'd probably get Kyra Lacey. He be having me joked out every time I talk to him.
Who's the most athletic?
Besides myself, Perk or Malik. Future self, just take one day at a time, one step at a time. If you're doing something, just be where your feet are. Make sure you give 100% effort.
What is something on your bucket list?
Win a Super Bowl. That's definitely on my bucket list.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Time traveling.
Who's the fastest on the team?
Like in a short span, I would say quick trigger, I'm taking perk. One thing most people don't know about me, probably that I moved 12 times growing up, 12 different states.
Who's the most savage on the team?
Mason Smith. Mason Smith, definitely.
And who gets it done?
Gordon.
Thank you, man. That's great.
Emory Jones, right tackle.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Got it from my mom, and she just told me, always keep your head on the swivel.
Favorite subject?
Math, easy. I kind of keep it light. Give me some type of red beans or something like that, throw a little cornbread on the side.
Light with red beans.
Yeah, just a little bit. I am superstitious. I got some PSDs that's purple and yellow and white. I wear them every game. I feel like they my lucky draws, and you know what I'm saying? I'm going to keep doing it.
Head health is incredibly important for our student athletes. One of the best ways we're trying to address concussions is on the front end. We're trying to prevent these before they happen. And a big part of that is speaking to the athletes, letting them know what to expect. Okay, speaking to the parents, what to look out for, talking to the coaches so they know the vital importance. Some of the big things we're looking for with a concussion, which is, a traumatic brain injury, is one, was there a mechanism? Was there an injury that took place that could lead to this? Often a direct blow to the head, a head-to-head hit. If someone's showing signs of concussion, our first step is always to remove them from activity, get them to a place where there's less stimuli, where we can really just sit down and get a feel for the athlete, what they're feeling. We're looking for headache, we're looking for dizziness, any sign that coordination is off, that something's just not right. Get a good evaluation of them to understand what's going on. It's not worth the risk that may be there to kind of ignore it, because there are very serious consequences if we don't treat a concussion properly.
Yeah. We'll play for the champs. Welcome back.
Throwback.
Jordy Culotta Show, as always, built by R&B, live here on this Monday. Appreciate you being here. Good stuff from our guy, Wilson Alexander. We will reschedule Brooke again later on this week as we will get our update on the Saints. Saints are bad, man. That was a bad press conference yesterday.
That's what, I don't
for
blame.
a organization that was the reason. And look, man, I'm bandwagon. I am a loud and proud bandwagon fan. I'm an like LSU baseball. You're not coming to me for the coverage, but as soon as they start winning, I'm all in. LSU basketball, women's basketball, football, even. You know what I mean? Like. You know what you're getting, right? I mean, and with the Saints, my big attraction to the Saints for so long was how organized they were, man. It really was. I mean, at first it started with watching the offense play, and you just saw how organized Peyton and Breeze were.
And the attitude.
Were so much on the same page, and everybody was in the right place at the right time. And, I mean, it was just like they were like creating this machine. And the Saints, by the time they were the machine, I mean, it was almost like expectant. I mean, now you look back on these runs that the Saints, I'm telling you, kids, I mean, it was such a long run. It was 15 years in how relevant they stayed, in the NFL. That was just not the case before Peyton and Breeze showed up, and now it kind of feels like those days are almost kind of creeping back in. It's not as bad as, people aren't wearing bags over their heads to watch the Saints play. But, I mean, that press conference of admitting where you've got, like, people on the wrong page, like, not communicating with one another, not being able to talk to one another, get on the same page. I mean, you're 6 weeks into this thing. You're 5 weeks in. I mean, these are the types of things. I mean, like, I understand more, I guess, on a college level, but I mean, not even there. On the NFL level, to be that far apart from a communication standpoint between the offensive coordinator and the quarterback that you just gave $50 million to?
Ugh.
I mean, like, huh? How? This is the stuff with the coaching that I don't get. Like, you spend so much time in the facility. You spend so much time together. You spend so much time watching film and looking at stuff, or at least that's what the perception is of the building, right? I mean, that's what we get told is happening in the building. Hey, you got to stay up there and watch film. You got to get up there for meetings. You got to get everybody on the same. It's like, okay, well, cool, I get it. I mean, like, you're going into a place where you want to make sure you're prepared. How, in week 5, does an NFL team have their offensive coordinator and their quarterback so far apart? I mean, really, I'm not asking to be controversial. I'm not asking to even, like, draw criticism. I'm asking out of curiosity. Like, hiring Pete Jenkins 5 weeks into the season. Nobody thought in the middle of the summer when Lindsey went down, like, hey, we should make that call now. That way you don't look up 5 weeks in and it looks like a fire drill every time we're on the field.
Right. Or you can go back one
year.
You
make the call 2 weeks later, you look
like a new team.
You look almost like you're functioning.
It takes giving up 800 yards. You'd be like, maybe we need a defensive line coach. Or fumbling 2 punts and missing an extra point. Be like, maybe we need a real special teams coordinator. Like, those kind of things that just slip through the cracks. And what they did with the Saints, like, that's where we started this conversation. Did you ever really actually think that this was going to work? Like, Dennis Allen, what's his record? It's atrocious as a head coach. And then you just...
I thought you were too much trying to hang on to the past.
Right, he's a great defensive coordinator. Like, you didn't want to lose that, right?
Keeping Carmichael, getting new here, losing...
Well, you would hope that they had learned something from Sean Payton that, hey, that offense works. Just do that one.
Well, I mean, I think that's what they're trying to do. But, I mean, now you're seeing how much Payton really oversees that.
Right.
You know, I mean, that is...
It's disgusting.
It is. It's hard to
barf.
watch. It is hard to watch. Like, it is tough. It's a tough product to watch.
And the thing that what sucks the most is you have, like, fun players.
Yeah.
Tyrann Mathieu, Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, like
Olave,
Shaheed. All of these guys are fun. Cam, but they just stink.
How are they that bad?
I don't know. The offensive line is obviously maybe the worst in football.
It has to be.
But
it has to be.
There's ways that you can kind of hide that when you have the amount of playmakers that they have.
I
don't even like watching them.
I am in full support of like a clear like pressure wash of the place. Like, I mean, I don't
even know who to hire.
I wouldn't either because I don't know, like, what's the crossover of the Pelicans and the Saints? Like, that's a sticky situation. You know, I mean, I know that they've really kind of divided that, and they've built their own facility, But, like, when you start getting to the real top of the funnel of the Saints, I mean, it's like, you know, there's a lot of crossover.
Who's making decisions here?
You know, I mean, to me, I would just say, like, look, man, whack that limb off the tree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, just it's a big, beautiful limb in a lot of the area, but really towards the part that really matter now, it's dead.
I mean,
you know, like, I mean, like you can look back and see all the bloom and all the flower and all of what you've accomplished. But I mean, from, you know, the last 4 years on, I mean, you can't grow a leaf off of it. Whack that thing. Cut it.
Dennis Allen is 18-41.
Marcus Stewart, I remember Jordan wanting to get the Saints band back together. That's when Sean Payton was in play. I wanted Sean Payton.
Right.
That's what I want.
And
I didn't want, Sean Payton 2.0.
Ugh, that's not even that. This is 0.0. This is not the same person. But, I mean, what also stinks for the Saints is if they fire Dennis Allen, you lose a really good defensive coordinator.
Well,
I wish you could just
This is the NFL.
Move him down.
This is the NFL.
But
look at the coaches around the league. 60%, 65% of the coaches that are walking sidelines when they were hired, I had no idea they existed. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that they were that they liked football. Turns out a lot of these kids are just like mad scientists. Like they're just these like whiz kids.
McDaniel.
Like go find me that guy. Like if you pride yourself on being innovative, if you pride yourself on being forward thinking, if you pride yourself on being on the cutting edge, like go get that proven commodity. It doesn't have to be some name brand. It doesn't have to be some recycled coach. It can be a first-year guy who's never worn a headset, never been a head coach, never thought about being a head coach, just a dynamic play caller, or look at DeMeco Ryans. I mean, I watched the Houston Texans play. I thought more than anything, like I would love the Saints to be built like that. I mean, that is, Bobby Hebert called it. The Cajun Cannon said it best on the point after. That's the San Francisco 49ers JV team. In 2 years, they're going to look like the 49ers. They're going to feel like the 49ers. They're built like the 49ers. They have a mentality like the 49ers. Go find the 49ers' most smartest coach on staff, hire him. Or go look at the guy who's made to build John Lynch. Isn't John Lynch the brains behind the 49ers?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't he the one building? Go hire his assistant. I mean, that's how NFL works. That's how like all these pro organization works.
It's just an orgy.
Yeah, I mean, you just go cherry pick from the winners. You go cherry pick from the guys that are doing it. That's why Alabama football has been, I mean, the place has been a shooting range for the last 15 years. Everybody's just got down there and like, take your shot, grab one of them, see what you get.
Texas.
Yeah, I mean, like McElwain, Cristobal, Kiffin, Sarkisian, Butch Jones. I mean, like all of them.
Bill O'Brien.
They all get shots. I mean, it's because like everybody wants that.
What did you learn from Nick Saban?
But the NFL works the same way. I mean, like Sean McVay's gotten got more guys paid than,
first on the list.
Apple.
Yeah. I mean
like,
Bill Belichick, every time that somebody sneezes around him, it's like, oh, he could be a head coach, and that never works out, but you just go to where the success is. Like, Dayball.
I mean, another one.
Alabama all over him.
Yeah, I mean, he got hired from Bama.
Yeah. Bill O'Brien.
So, I mean, Saints look in trouble. Saints look lost. Saints look. Yeah. But the thing about the NFL is that, I mean, you can, it's like the transfer portal. I mean, it's what the transfer portal is for college football. You can be back overnight. If you go get the right guy, you get the right guys in place. I mean,
you can fix it.
Yeah, you can fix it.
Saints have their first round pick for the first time in a long time. Feels like. So that's what I'm looking forward to, and I don't blame Brooke for not coming on this show today. You get to get there's no positive spin.
No.
Not at all. And it doesn't help that every time Pete Carmichael goes to the microphone, he sounds like he's a stroke victim. Like they're trying to bail him out constantly from talking himself into a mess. He does it anyway.
Yeah, he does.
And it's just like, you're just not competent. And that's okay. Because they stink. I think they're averaging like 16 points a game. If you take out the New England game. I mean, 16? That's tough to do.
I mean,
with that, you have 11 players. 5 of them are good. You would think that you would score more than 16 points.
I mean, like, to me, it's hard to be that bad in the NFL.
Yeah, and when
you got guys like that.
I just don't know what they saw in Derek Carr, where it's like, this will fix everything.
Yeah.
Like, there's no difference between him and Jameis.
Gosh. Have a good Monday. Have a good Tuesday.
It's got dark.
Saints are bad.
LSU's good.
Saints are bad, though. Yeah,
LSU's fun.
LSU is good. All right, have a good Tuesday. We're back with you tomorrow morning. Make sure to hit that like button, share button, comment button. We appreciate you being there. Have a good day. We will Talk to you tomorrow morning. Compliments of our friends over at R&B Builders.
Cardale.
Hey, Chino. Put my headphones up, bro. Right there. Monday through Friday from 7 to 9. Yeah, you see the notification. We about to go live. We got all your favorite guests. We got them in line. It's the Jordy Culotta Show. Come have a good time. It's the hottest show around. We ain't got to flex. Call up G, we get it done. We earning our respect. Tell recruits to let us in. Where they going next? Throw up the L's, now we lit. Band playing neck. From the boot to the east to the west coast. No matter where we at, we live. Mic'd up for show. Open up the phone lines. Come and join the show. Make sure you tell your friends about Jordy Culotta Show. Yeah, Monday through Friday from 7 to 9. Yeah, you see the notification. We about to go live. We got all your favorite guests. We got them in line.